Hi, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Nadine Hughes of the Cook's Companion, and welcome to your new version of your recipe of the week. It's 2011. I upgraded my laptop last year, and we've got all these great features, one of which is a webcam. So I thought, why not start to provide you with your recipe of the week in a visual format? Because if you're like me, sometimes you take a look at things and you go, yeah, I want to make that, versus reading them. Now, don't worry, you'll still get all my recipes in the recipe of the week that you can pull off, download, print off, carry with you, whatever you want to do. But I thought I'll show you some of the recipes on a visual to sort of get you inspired and get you back into the kitchen. So this week, we're going to take a look at a Greek rub for a pork tenderloin. Now, my family loves Greek night. Your family might like, Mexican night and Italian night, but I don't know, we just love Greek. Like, we love tzatziki, we love Greek salad, and that's what I'm going to be serving the pork tenderloin with tonight. But I want to show you a great rub that you can use, that you can store for a couple of weeks in an airtight tight container, and you can use it on chicken, you can use it on fish, and tonight we're going to use it on pork tenderloin. So, to get started, I always put a lot of my rubs and spices, actually use my salad dressings and things, in one of these sort of like the mason jars. I think they keep really well, they've got a nice sealed lid, but you can also just do this in a Ziploc bag, or you could even just do it in a clear bowl. So whatever you've got, you know me, just use what you've got. So the first thing we're going to add is 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Okay, and this is a spice rub, so we're not using fresh herbs. We're actually using, dried spices and dried herbs. So probably you've got most of them in your pantry. If not, go out and invest in a couple of dollars, and you'll be using them now with all these recipes. So that's 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, because what's a Greek recipe without oregano? 2 teaspoons of salt. Now I use a kosher salt or a sea salt. I just find that it's less iodized than a regular salt and a much better flavor. And then I'm going to use 1½ teaspoons of dried onion powder and 1½ teaspoons of dried garlic powder. And it's starting to smell fabulous already. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of crushed black pepper. You could use white pepper as well. And I'm going to use ½ teaspoon of cinnamon and ½ teaspoon of nutmeg. Now you might think cinnamon and nutmeg, where does that go into a Greek recipe? But some of that sweetness is really going to bring out the savoriness of the salt, the pepper, the oregano, and really going to bring those flavors out and brighten them up. So you could stir it all together. I just put it in a jar, shake away. Great, you can get the kids to do that as well. And this is also going to be my jar to keep afterwards, because I'm not going to use all this spice. You probably make up about, ¼ cup that you can use, as I said, over the next couple of weeks. So I've got my pork tenderloin, and I want to add the rub to it. First thing you want to do when you're doing any sort of a rub or even a marinade is you want to pat dry the meat, just with a paper towel, all right? And that'll help to have the rub adhere a little bit stronger to the meat. Now, pork tenderloin, while we're here, we might as well talk about that. Usually it's a very lean cut of meat, but sometimes you find that you've got this silvery skin on the outside of the pork tenderloin, and you want to remove that if it hasn't already been removed, because what will happen is when you cook it, sometimes if you notice the pork tenderloin, actually, as it cooks, almost sort of curls up, sort of like how a shrimp does as well. Well, that's the tissues and the muscles sort of, contracting. And if you start to take off some of this fat and some of this sinew, you'll find less and less that'll happen. So you just take your knife, you run it down. I don't really have too much of that, but I can even just start it. And you can see I'm actually half pulling and half sort of slicing through. And I can start to take that off. All right, so it's really simple and easy to do. I'm going to take my pork tenderloin now, and I'm going to take my rub, and I'm going to put it all on. And I actually might use all of this rub, because this is a pretty big pork tenderloin. And I'm going to get my fingers in there. Don't be afraid to get your fingers in the kitchen. Sign of a good cook when he or she gets your fingers in there. Rub it all over. Now I could do this in the morning, or even the night before, and put it in the fridge to keep covered until I was ready to sear it. Okay, so I've got my pork tenderloin. It's all done. It's very fragrant. It's beautiful. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to sear it. So I'm going to be taking one of my oven-proof pans, okay? And if you don't have a pan big enough for your pork tenderloin, just cut your pork tenderloin in half, okay? You've always got a thinner tail section, so that's going to cook faster anyways. So it's sort of ideal to cut it in half as well, so you can remove that thinner section earlier than the thicker part. But I'm going to sear it in a pan in a little bit of oil, vegetable oil, canola oil. You can use olive oil as well, although remember it doesn't have as high burner point, but you can certainly use olive oil. So medium-high heat. I'm going to sear the pork tenderloin on all sides. Just stand there with my tongs, and then I'm going to put it in a preheated 400-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, that's all it takes for a pork tenderloin of this size. 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to let it sit and rest for about 5 minutes. Slice it up. It's going to be nice and crispy on the outside from this beautiful rub that we've done. It's going to be beautiful, moist, slightly pink on the inside. I'm going to serve it with a Greek salad, some tzatziki, maybe some lemon potatoes, rice, whatever I've got around, and it will be fabulous. And I'm going to show you the finished product later when we cook it tonight. All right, so I'm hoping you're liking this new version. Give me an email. Let me know what you think, or maybe some recipes that you'd like to see, and I'll make sure to include it in 2011. So this is a Greek spice rub for a pork tenderloin. Enjoy it tonight.